talking to you today about goal setting. And not just goal setting for work, as we're in a work environment right now, but also goal setting for life. Once you're able to set goals, it's a task and a technique that you can use in all the areas of your life. So we have 3 objectives today. And what we're going to be doing is explore the importance of goal setting. Why does it matter? Why do we want to make sure that we actually do set goals? We're also going to learn effective goal setting skills. It's not something that we are taught very often in school. People talk about goals, but they don't get down to the very nitty-gritty. And so I'm going to teach you the SMART way, S-M-A-R-T, the SMART way of goal setting today. And then I want to make sure that you find how to overcome barriers to reaching your goals. If you take a look over here, effective goal setting can help you in multiple areas. You can achieve more in your life. You're going to be able to improve your performance, increase your motivation. Anybody here feel like they need to increase the motivation sometimes? And that's also part of goal setting for life and for work. Work goal setting motivations can be performance-oriented, financially oriented. What other ways do you think that a motivation for work could be?
Reduce your stress.
Reduce the stress. Very smart. And then, of course, improving your self-confidence. And it's interesting how much goals, creating them and then being able to achieve them, can improve your self-confidence. And if we set goals in a way that you can achieve them, it will minimize you having issues with self-confidence. So goals are directly tied to your self-confidence. Facts about goal setting. How many % of Americans do you think actually set goals and how many don't? And we're not talking about New Year's Eve. How many people set goals on New Year's Eve, right?
Everyone.
Right? And how many achieve them? The gyms are full in January, but we're in August. If we went to the gym right now, how full would it be?
Hardly anybody.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Like
Because goal setting has to be realistic, and that's part of the SMART goal setting. Sometimes we're like, I'm going to lose 30 pounds by, what, Valentine's Day on New Year's Eve. Is that realistic? Not really, no. And so when you set goals that are not realistic, that doesn't fall into that SMART way of setting goals, and then that can mess with your self-esteem, like we spoke about before. Also, so we were talking about the percentage of Americans that never set goals. 38%. So that's more than a third, okay? And that includes even those ones on New Year's Eve. They're like, nah, it's not going to happen, right? Then 8% of Americans actually achieve their New Year's goals, and 25% of Americans who make New Year's resolutions don't even keep them past that first week, right? So let's take a look at many people failing to achieve their goals because why? Exactly. So if you leave here today and you know how to set your goals, then I've done my job well, okay? So again, ask questions along the way if we need to. First of all, remember I spoke to you about setting SMART goals? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. See how that's an acronym for specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and you don't have to jot this down because it's on your documentation and we're going to go through all of it. And the last one is T, and that's the time defined. So I like to start at the back. Why do you think it's important to have a goal that's time defined? Remember how I said, am I going to lose 30 pounds in 6 weeks? Probably not. If you define your goal in a way that it's actually realistic, that's the R in the SMART, then it's going to be time defined. I could lose 30 pounds in a year, right? I could lose 3 pounds a month, 2 pounds a month. That's probably more realistic, okay? So, first of all, I want you to make sure that your goals are specific. Is anybody interested in sharing a goal?
Work-related goal?
It can be work, it can be life, it can even be recreation.
Well, we're both in college now. Yeah.
Congratulations. Okay. So specific goal, are you going for what kind of a degree?
I'm working on my bachelor's degree.
Good for you. Barry University, great. And for yourself?
Masters.
Master's degree, okay. So that is a specific goal, right? You're not just like, well, I'm going to go to school. Your end goal is to have a master's degree. Your end goal is to have a bachelor's degree. If you decided, well, I'm going to study, I'm going to learn more, is that a specific goal? No. Do you know how much time it's going to take for you to do your master's degree?
2 years.
2 years. Remember how I said the last part of SMART is time to find? How about for your bachelor's? Do you know how long?
I have another year, I believe.
Good, congratulations. And so it's specific and it's time to find you to know exactly how you're going to be doing it. And this is exactly what it's saying. You clearly need to define your target and you need to use exercise to determine when. So if you were going to get in the car and you were going to drive to, let's say, let's pick somewhere fun. What would be a good place to go to? Anybody? Disney World. Okay. So if I got in the car and went out the road here and decided I'm going to go to Disney World and just decided to drive, what are the chances I'm actually going to end up at Disney World? Slim. Slim. Even here, there's no sign saying Disney World is this way, right? I mean, even when you're on Disney property, it's hard to find Disney World, isn't it? You can be driving around there. So that's why it has to be very specific, and you're going to need little things like a map, a little bit something else. So we're going to look at making your goals measurable, okay? Going to Disney or getting a bachelor's or a master's degree, it's a measurable thing. Disney, I know it's about an hour away, right? And that's, again, we're going back to the last one, time. Okay, so we have to make sure that we're using a SMART goal setting. And again, the first one is you have to make your goal specific. The next one, you want to make it measurable. And just like it says, you need to set an end goal. I'm working on a doctorate program, and I was anticipating it being about 5 years, but then the campus closed, the Barry campus closed in Orlando, and so now I'm doing it out of Miami and so sometimes when you set it as measurable, things change. So should you have some flexibility when it comes to that? You might have a family dynamic that comes up. You might have something that happens at work that needs more of your attention. You can't go at the same paces. But measurable is important because a vague goal is what? A bad goal. A vague goal is not a good goal because it's not specific and it's not measurable. You also want to make sure that your goals are action-oriented. You want to take little baby steps towards it. When you went to look at studying, or if you have a project due at work, what happens if you don't work on it? If you're procrastinating. And some people, unfortunately, make a mistake in action-oriented step of goal setting is that they thrive on the adrenaline of delaying and procrastinating, and then at that 11th hour when something is due, all of those stress hormones are surging and it's physiologically bad for them, but they eventually do turn in something. Is it their best work? No, it's not.
People are built that way, though.
Some people are. Some people thrive on that. Some people do, and some people procrastinate on purpose because they know in the 11th hour. But nobody can actually focus on more than one thing at a time. You know, we always see ourselves as being multitaskers, right? Your brain cannot think about more than 4 to 5 things at a time, but you really can only think about one. So let's say you're watching television and you're reading a book and you're keeping an eye on the kids. Are you actually doing all 3 of those things at once? No. You're looking at the TV, you're splitting your attention, now you're reading a little bit more of your book, now you're checking on the kids. Then you're checking on the kids, and you're looking at the TV, and then your book, and then the TV, and then the kids. So when we see ourselves as multitaskers, it's not always multitasking. You know, have you heard the saying, jack of all trades and master of none? You can kind of have a lot of different things going on, but goals help you to focus in on one specific thing and make sure that your attention is there. Do you break down your studies into little bite-sized pieces? Or if there's a paper due tomorrow, do you wait until tonight at midnight and say, I have to turn it in by 7 a.m., so I'm pulling an all-nighter?
Break it down.
Exactly, and that's being goal-oriented. So it has to be action-oriented, smaller steps in order to accomplish. Then realistic. Remember we spoke about the 30 pounds in 30 days? We have to make sure that our goals are realistic. And that's because if you are setting a goal, you want to make sure that it's something that you can achieve, because if it's unachievable, you're going to have all kinds of self-demeaning thoughts and it's going to affect your self-esteem. If I said, you know what my goal is? I'm going to sit down. Is that an achievable goal? Yes. But am I going to feel good about myself for being able to do it? No. That's not really goal setting. That's just doing. Goal setting is actually attaining something. Okay? The great thing about your handout is I'm going to teach you some really interesting ways of setting lifetime goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, and showing you how to make your goals smart. So I'm really impressed that the two of you are in school, because it's going to make it really easy for me to use some good things. Then timely. Remember I started with this. You want to make sure that you have a specific day to reach your goal, and you want to make it realistic yet challenging. When things are too easy, we kind of let them fall by the way. Do you agree? Yeah. And so again, we want to make sure that our goals are smart. They need to be specific. They need to be measurable. It has to be action, realistic, and time. Does that help you to look at goals in a different way? Great. Glad to hear that. So, life goals are something that we see ourselves, I want to retire by the time I'm 65. Do either of you want to share a life goal with yourself? With each other? Your own life goal. Doesn't have to involve anybody else. Can just be for yourself.
Retirement, it would be one.
Retirement?
Yeah. You can plan for it, but you don't know exactly when that's going to happen.
Is that something, is retiring at a certain age something that you need to be smart about? Specific, measurable, action,
Yes.
realistic,
Plan along
and
the way.
time. Yes. And the people that have planned for their retirement when they're 25 and have started putting away, they're going to retire with a whole lot more than the people who start planning at 55, right? That's the way it works. So that shows you the T, the part of the time sensitivity and SMART goals. You also can break your goals down to 5-year goals and 1-year goals, okay? So let's say, for example, I'm going to use you if that's okay. You want to retire, shall we say 65? That's a nice age to retire. Your 1-year goal is to get towards your degree. Your 5-year goal is?
Hopefully be promoted.
Oh, good. And your degree is going to help you get the promotion, right? So your 5-year goal is get a promotion. How about 10-year goal? Maybe incorporate more leisure into your life at 10 years? Travel. Because now you're not studying. You're not spending all of that extra free time on your studies. And it's a fascinating phenomenon, because when we're young, we have time and energy, but not the resources we're looking for. When we're middle age, we have our resources and we have energy, but we don't have all the time that we want. And then when we're older, we have plenty of time and plenty of resources, but we don't always have the energy. So that's why we need to make sure we're incorporating leisure into our goals as we're going along. If you're just all goal-directed, what's going to happen in your life and at work? If you're not having balance, what's going to happen? Physiologically. Yeah.
Then incorporate some exercise in there too, I guess.
Exactly. So that's important. So one of your goals you might want to make sure that you're always incorporating is some form of exercise. And that's important, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, right? So a good life goal is I want to maintain a healthy body mass index, right? Would you agree? These are good goals. Yeah. I also want to talk to you here about what we just spoke about, the retirement. 10-year goal might be to own your home. Would it be nice to not have your mortgage anymore? That would be really great, right? Your 5-year goal might be to be debt-free, pay off all those credit cards. These are all things that you can work towards if you use SMART goals, if you use planning. Specific, has to be measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time. Okay? Does this help you? I would encourage you to take that, photocopy it, and share it with your coworkers how to set really good, healthy goals. Okay? Would you tell other people your goals or not? Do you think that there's an advantage to sharing your goals with other people?
Sure, there's an advantage, yeah, because
There
they
is.
can help you.
They can.
Your eyes are things that you may not be thinking about, or maybe they went down that same road before, so they
Yeah.
have information that you might not necessarily have.
So you're studying to get your master's degree. If you go to your friend over here and you're like, okay, so I'm going to go to Disney. That's my goal. We've decided I'm going to go to Disney this week, and then next week I'm going to go to Disney, and then the following week I'm going on a cruise, and then after that I'm going to, what would your friend say to you? So how's that master's degree coming, right?
Are you taking books with you?
And now that you all know the way of being very specific, making sure your goals are measurable, action realistic, would your goal of finishing your master's degree be realistic if you're going to Disney every week and going on cruises? No. So it helps to share your goals with other people because they can help keep you on track. And at work, if you have a very big project that's due and your friends notice that you're procrastinating and you're not really staying on task and you've put things into little bite-sized pieces, is that a good time to share with someone? Okay, my goal is to actually get this assignment turned in early. It's good, right?
They can hold you accountable.
Yes, accountability. There we go. Why should you not tell other people about your goals? Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes there should be reasons why not to. You might feel judged. You might feel judged. You also might have negative pressure, right? So let's think about if you want to lose those 30 pounds. And there you are sitting at your desk eating a donut, right? Now your friend's gonna be like, so how's that coming with losing those 30 pounds? Now you're gonna feel a little bit judged and you're gonna feel like a little bit negative pressure. So choosing which goals to share with people and which goals not to, right? That's an important thing to think about. So sometimes it's good to share, sometimes it's not so good to share. So be conscientious of that. Goal setting. It's critical to actually write down your goals. Do you know how many thoughts you have in just 1 minute? You have about 48 thoughts in just 1 minute. There's a lot of stuff going on in your head. And it's very hard to keep track of all your goals if you haven't actually written them down. So I'm going to encourage you, if you have a goal, you'll see some people will do a little poster of what their goal is. If they're trying to lose weight, they'll have a little skinnier picture of themselves on their refrigerator or on their desk. If they're trying to stay on task finishing a degree, they might have a little graduation cap out. It's important to have a visualization of your goal and to actually write it down. Yes, tell me.
A friend of mine has, she's very much into exercising.
Good.
She posted something where she had a picture of two ladies. They were in their 70s.
Okay.
And one was kind of hunched over with typical grandma looking, hunched over and frail looking, and the other one like pumped up muscles, and they were both 70-something.
Both the same age.
Which one do you want to be?
See, so that's motivational. That's motivational. And that's one of the reasons that it's important to write down your goals. Set short-term, SMART goals for this area and use a list of steps that you're going to accomplish your goals. So tell me a little bit about lists that you might use in your workplace when you need to get something done. Do you use a little to-do list that you can then scratch off what you've accomplished so you can have a sense of accomplishment? That's a really great way to do it. That helps also to boost your self-esteem, and it helps you to know that you're actually accomplishing what's set before you at work. Some people really thrive on words of affirmation. And so if you have somebody helping you with things as they accomplish their tasks, I'm going to encourage you to encourage them by using words of affirmation. Say, oh, thank you so much. It's really made my load easier today. Okay? So making lists, scratching things off. Some people use their phones even. Make lists on there and then go through. I encourage people with goal setting, always put your least desirable thing that you want to do for the day at the very top of the list. So I've been wanting to spray the weeds in my yard for a little while, and it's been at the top of my list. Today is Wednesday. It was at the top of my list on Saturday, at the top of my list on Sunday, and this morning I thought, okay, before I get my shower, I'm just going to get out there and spray the weeds, you know. And so if you don't get the thing that's done on the top of your list, incorporate it into your list for the next day. And then, yes, keep moving. Carry on. Be grateful for what you did do. I mean, Monday for all of us was a little bit of a wasted day, right? Because there was a 2-minute time period of something really exciting happening, and everything leading up to the eclipse was focused on that. And then after that, it was, oh, how was that? So things like that happen. The unexpected happened, we spoke about that before. You just never know how things are going to turn out. So be a little bit flexible with your goals as well. Identify the first steps towards reaching the goal and then commit to accomplishing them. I spoke to you about lifetime goals and then breaking them down into 10-year goals, 5-year goals, and 1-year goals. But it's important to know, what am I going to accomplish today? You need to have a sense of accomplishment to make sure that you're boosting your own self-esteem. It's a downward spiral if you have unrealistic goals, if your goals aren't in that SMART phase, because it's self-defeating. You're like, oh, didn't get those weeds done again. Oh, didn't get those weeds. And they don't go away by themselves. They just invite all their friends to join them. So we want to make sure that we're getting that taken care of. What are your barriers to effective goal setting? Any of you have something that you want to share? My barriers to the weeds were, I have 4 children and they all had stuff to get ready. Everyone started college this week. Everybody had things that needed to be done. And sometimes barriers to some of our goals are very worthy things. I decided to have my son's room painted and pulled out all the furniture. I really was just procrastinating about not having to go into the heat and do the weeds by doing all kinds of other wonderful things. So you can procrastinate by doing really great stuff at work, really good things in the house, but you're not actually doing what you need to get done. So we can talk about, I know in a bachelor's and a master's degree, you have to write a lot of papers, right? We're always doing assignments, always doing reading. You can be like, well, you know, I really need to stay home, get all of this done, and then all of a sudden you're doing very important other things, like ironing clothes. I ironed my shirt. I didn't need to iron my shirt. It's a no iron shirt, but it kept me in the house instead of going outside to take care of those weeds. So be very mindful. You can fill up your time with things that are good to be doing, but aren't actually achieving the goals that you have set for yourself, which now we know, we've written them down, so they're sitting there glaring at us and we have to cross them off, or we have to transfer them onto our list for the next day. Okay? Common barriers are planning paralysis. Planning paralysis is a fascinating way of not getting your goal done. You keep making a plan of how you're going to achieve your goal. And then the next day you're like, well, you know, I can modify the plan by doing this. And well, it's part of that procrastination process. You're not actually ever making that first step that you're supposed to achieve your goal. Then perfectionism. We all have certain areas of our lives that we're a little bit perfectionistic, right? And that can be very stagnating because we don't move on. We keep trying to achieve perfection. Is perfection achievable? Is anybody? No? It's not. And so sometimes you just have to say it's well enough left alone. Good enough is good enough. And then move on. Always putting forth your best self. But
Somebody else could think that what you did was perfect.
absolutely. Because we are our biggest critics. We really are. And then boredom. If you set a goal that's not stimulating enough for you, you can get bored of it, kind of dull, turn on the TV, and then, or going to YouTube, and then that's hours of your life wasted, right? You're just looking at one thing. How about the deadline high? We spoke about this a little bit. That's that waiting till the 11th hour, because then you know you're going to achieve your best. And do you put forth your best then? No. Sometimes people turn in stuff that they haven't even checked themselves because it's so close to the deadline. And then there are glaring errors that are there. When to delay a task? When should you not take that first step towards getting your goal going? When you're tired, when you're emotionally charged. You know, sometimes it's best go get some rest and then start. Because if you start a goal when you're emotionally drained or physically drained, you're not going to put forth your best effort. So I always say when you're getting ready to get a really good goal going, make sure you're hydrated, make sure you have some protein on board, and make sure that you have really good rest. Because it's very disconcerting when you're starting something and you're just like, oh, I just can't, I just don't want to. Whereas if you are rested and ready to get rolling, you could have knocked that out in an hour. So you can sometimes take a task that should only take an hour and stretch it into a whole day process because you're not rested or you are emotionally charged. Also, when you lack information or the skill set, if there's a time that you have a goal that you want to reach, I know for ladies a lot of times it's these parts of their arms exercising, right? And they're doing all kinds of exercises and they're like, oh, my arms just still don't look very good. Get help. There are people that you can say, there's this one area that I really want to work on in my body, tell me what I can do. And they can teach you very specific ways of focusing on that. We don't all know everything. Remember we said, jack of all trades and master of none? We don't all have knowledge about everything. So when you need information, skill sets, and anything, don't be afraid to ask, right? And another thing is, when you have more pressing tasks or deadlines, you tend to push aside your goals. That is okay sometimes. Sometimes things come to the foreground and other things go to the background. When you get those done, you can still go get those other things. So I don't want that to be something that makes you feel like you're not achieving goals. You're just achieving different goals and the other ones are still coming. I'm curious to know if you have any questions about that SMART technique. Remember, that's specific, measurable, action, realistic, and time.